Well, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video here. In this video, we're going to be talking about all the canceled crossover movies that we were supposed to get. Obviously, there is a whole bunch that had got canceled that I didn't know about. There's some that I did know about, but there's some that I didn't know about. So um, let's get into it. So obviously, I'm going to be scrolling through this page here. We're just going to be looking at all the canceled crossover films that we were supposed to get. Um, and obviously, I didn't know, like a lot of these, I didn't know that they were going to make. I didn't know they were going to make there's one specific one that I remember. I think it was Chucky versus the Leprechaun, I believe. That was supposed to be made, but they canceled that. But anyways, we're gonna get into the video here. So obviously, Freddy versus Jason, we got that. But so Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. So with Freddy versus Jason making more money than any entry in either the Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th series up to that point, New Line Cinema naturally wanted to make a Freddy vs. Jason 2. Jeff Katz, who had worked as a producer on Freddy vs. Jason, delivered a script treatment for Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, a sequel that brought in Bruce Campbell's hero from the Evil Dead movies, while Freddy actor Robert Englund has keen on the prospect Campbell and Evil Dead creator Sam Raimi were not so authentic, as New Line proved to be very controlling on everything or anything to do with Freddy, wary of having little creative input on anything not concerning Ash, and worried about a potentially cumbersome three-way rights split when it came to profits. Campbell and Rami, I think it's Rami, sorry, ultimately backed out. All was not lost, though, as Kat's treatment was adopted into a well-received run of Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash comic books, with Campbell retired as Ash after Ash versus Evil Dead, and Englund also retired as Freddy. The prospect of a Freddy vs. Jason versus Ash movie ever happening looks deader than one of Jason's victims at Crystal Lake. So yeah, wow, I did not know that, guys. That's pretty interesting. So Freddy versus Jason versus Ash was actually a comic book that was supposed to happen, and obviously this one is a familiar one. I already know about this one. So Michael Myers versus Pinhead. I mean, we all knew that they were supposed to make a Halloween versus Pinhead film, but they canceled that because they didn't feel like it made any sense. Which, I'm not going to blame them for that again, because if it doesn't make sense, you probably shouldn't make it. But so impressed by Freddy vs. Jason's success and that Alien vs. Predator, Dimension Films grew increasingly interested in the previously pitched idea of a crossover involving the two biggest horror properties it owned at the time, Halloween and Hellraiser. Halloween was to see Michael Myers go toe-to-toe with Pinhead, with Hellraiser creator Clive Barker writing the script and even getting Halloween creator John Carpenter on board to direct. It's unclear how the story would have potentially explained the two monsters crossing paths, but the prospect immediately drew interest from many horror devotees, and Dimension saw dollar signs in their future. Unfortunately, Halloween's union of Halloween and Hellraiser ran into one huge stumbling block in the form of longtime Halloween franchise producer Mustafa Akkad. Carpenter had long since sold his interest in the franchise to Akkad, and while Akkad licensed the rights to Dimension to make movies, he retained the final say over potential projects involving Michael Myers. Akkad has zero interest in doing Michael versus Pinhead, as he was extremely protective of Halloween and did not want to risk any damage of its public image. It could be argued that terrible sequels like Halloween Resurrection had already done damage, but Akkad disagreed. Thus, Halloween ended up dead on arrival. Okay, so that's basically it there. So that's very interesting. So Akkad had the rights, so he licensed the rights to Dimension to make the movies. He retained the final say, basically. So that's basically what happened. Why it got canceled, and also it didn't make sense either. So, I mean, that's pretty interesting. And I'm not going to blame him for that again, because, it's not, if it doesn't make sense, then don't do it. I mean, everybody wanted to see a crossover, but again, it's got to make a lot of sense. Okay, and this is very interesting. Now, I did not know about this. So, Leprechaun versus Candyman. Okay, I thought it was actually going to be Chucky versus Leprechaun. I could have been wrong. Maybe they were going to do it, but then they were going to also do a Leprechaun versus Candyman. I'm not 100%. So maybe I was wrong about Chucky and Leprechaun. But I could have sworn that they were going to make a Chucky and Leprechaun film. But anyways, so Candyman versus Leprechaun. So another potential horror versus crossover movie proposed not long after Freddy vs. Jason was a meeting between hook-handed urban legend Candyman and the gold-obsessed fairy called Leprechaun. Lionsgate controlled the rights to both series at that point and wanted to capitalize on the love for slasher icons facing off by having the equivalent, or having the vicious Candyman face off with Dimension's trickster on paper. That seems like a huge mismatch, but both in stature and reputation. Then again, both are supernatural characters, so physical prowess doesn't mean much. Still, it's highly unlikely a Candyman versus Leprechaun crossover movie would have been a disaster. I'll be a potential, hilarious one. The idea was to bring stars Tony Todd, Warwick Davis back, but Todd took one look at the pitch and immediately pledged to have absolutely nothing to do with the project. This is not surprising considering Todd's love and respect for his signature character and desire not to let him become a laughingstock. Todd then tried to get a Candyman 4 in motion, but that too fell through. Candyman would not return until 2021's Requel, which featured Todd in a cameo. Very, very interesting. Never knew that. And of course, everybody wants to see crossover films. But anyways, on to the next. So this is the one that really, really shocked me. Okay. That I thought we were 100% going to get. And that is Child's Play on Elm Street. Now, that is pretty weird. I never really knew that we were going to get this. But it looks like that's what we were going to get. That's what it looks like. So, anyways, I'm going to read what it says here. So, in 2014, Child's Play creator Don Mancini first revealed his pitch for a crossover between the Child's Play and Nightmare on Elm Street franchises. The simply titled Child's Play on Elm Street was to see Chucky end up owned by an Elm Street resident, and while they eventually meet Freddy Krueger within the dream world. In a fun twist, the idea would first be for the two verbose, quick-witted killers to become friends, admiring each other's work in establishing. Ultimately, though, in a turn somewhat similar to Freddy vs. Jason, Freddy and Chucky would realize that Elm Street was not big enough for both of them, that they were eaten into victim pools. Excuse me. Instead of fighting, Mancini planned for Freddy and Chucky to make a wager with whoever killed a wager. Excuse me. Sorry. So Mancini planned for Freddy and Chucky to make a wager with whoever killed the most people in one night, winning control of the area. And by 2017, Mancini had hinted he was actually pitching the idea to New Line, but expressed hesitancy about Universal, who controls Chucky, and New Line agreeing to work together. Sure enough, the crossover never got off the ground. So yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. That would have been a cool matchup to get, but again, I guess they don't feel like it makes sense, you know. I guess just don't do it, right? But yeah, I mean, it's very interesting, guys. Like, I never knew that we were supposed to get, these crossover films. So that's basically all I got for this video, guys. So yeah, so obviously we were supposed to get Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. That was in a comic book. And they even writ that into, they even said that was a comic book. They made that into a comic book. So, which is pretty interesting. And then obviously you got Leprechaun versus Candyman, which is really interesting. And then Child's Play on Elm Street, which that one was shocking to me. But yeah, guys, that's basically going to do it. I just wanted to talk about the canceled crossover films that we were supposed to get, that we didn't get. And obviously I knew about the Michael versus Pinhead one. I heard about that they were going to do that way after. I think they were going to do that after H2O, I believe. And they were going to have like a crossover in the early 2000s, I believe, like that. Everybody was wanting to see it because then Freddy vs. Jason came out, and that movie did pretty well. So a lot of people wanted to see that. But anyways, guys, that's basically going to do it for this video. Be sure to hit the thumbs up, comment down below, give me your guys' thoughts about basically all these crossovers that we were supposed to get. And which one are you very interested in? Which one would you have been interested in to watch? Because I look at all these matchups, like Child's Play and Elm Street. I mean, that's pretty interesting. So basically, it said that Elm Street resident was supposed to was going to own the Child's Play doll, was going to own the good guy doll, which is pretty cool. That would have been an interesting matchup. And then obviously Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, that would have been awesome as well. But we definitely need more crossovers, I believe. I mean, there's a lot of people that don't think that we should. But honestly, I think, as well as, Freddy vs. Jason did, which a lot of people didn't really like Freddy vs. Jason all like that. Like, a lot of people didn't like Sorry about that, guys. So, that's an ad there. So people didn't really like Freddy versus Jason, because I guess the Jason mask Jason's look didn't look all that great, and they didn't really prefer. They preferred Kane Hodder in that film, which I did too, and it's not a bad film. I just don't. The Jason that played him, the stunt double that played him, didn't do. I mean, I think Kane Hodder would have been better, So I think that's the real reason why people didn't really like that film. But anyways, guys, let me know in the comments what you guys think about all these crossover films. Basically, that got canceled. I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but let me know in the comments down below. And be sure to, again, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and the notification bell as always. But all right, y'all. See you on the next one.